For scale and proportion, scale is more about its size, and proportion is more size of parts in relation to the other parts. These are three artists that scale is very important in their artwork and how it's received. Ron Muick does both extra large and extra small. This is an extra large, obviously, sculpture. These are real people. This is the sculpture. And what he does is called hyperrealism. You can see in the skin tones, he experiments with different types of rubbers and silicones that will have the right translucence to match skin, and he'll sculpt the finest details down to the pores. He will use for the hair, he will use horsehair and other animal hair and larger fibers so that the hair is proportional to the large scale, and so that everything works there. And he does these massive sculptures of very ordinary looking people. And that changes the way his work is perceived. It's on such a large scale that we can't ignore it, but there's nothing particularly special about the people that he sculpts. And so that leads you to wonder about, why make it on such a massive scale and put all of that detail into it. And it says something about the importance of your average, everyday, not particularly pretty people, and is interesting. And it affects it in a way that doing a life-size sculpture would not have the same effect. We'd think more of a wax museum, and it would be almost exclusively on the realism and the detail, but changing the scale of it changes the perception. Similarly over here, we've got pottery that is made on the wheel and glazed in all of the traditional techniques, but it's so tiny as to not be even remotely functional. This is, again, not trick photography. These are so tiny that while that lid comes off and there's a hole in there, you wouldn't actually be able to get liquids to pour out of that, just because of the surface tension of the liquid. And so in pottery, there's always the question of form versus function, and is it mostly a useful object? And it will often get overlooked as an art form because it's just the stuff that we use all the time. And this takes away the usefulness of it and makes it just about the art and the skill that's involved in making these really minute traditional pottery forms. And Dalton Getty here they're nice carvings, they're good, but they would be nothing special except for how tiny they are. And they're made on something extremely ordinary. He sculpts pencils. These are all carpenter's pencils, but he uses regular pencils as well. And he actually carves into the graphite of the pencil and does it all in one carving. And he will, if he breaks it, he'll not use it and start over. He doesn't repair them. And so taking something so ordinary, and pencils are something that we use to make art, but not usually in this way. And so it changes people's perceptions to work in that really tiny scale. We can also really play with proportions. Both of these have disproportionately large feet. Their heads and upper torsos are very small, their legs are very long, and their feet are very big. And it makes, they both have different emotional content. And if they were in regular proportions, we'd be able to see that emotional content. The one on the left, he looks, sad. He's looking down at his feet, maybe kind of lonely, a little bored. And that feel is there in the figure. And this person is, very happy with themselves. There's no self-consciousness. This one is all about self-consciousness. No self-consciousness here. There's celebration and excitement in this one. And the changing the proportions will exaggerating those feet and messing with those proportions really exaggerates the look and the feel of the thing. Um, when we feel all self-conscious, we look down at our feet to the point that that's all we can see, and so making them huge can have relation to that. Or we might get this little sense of vertigo that our feet are far away or something, and we're getting different perceptions, but also just we can't ignore that it's all about staring down at those feet and those long legs. Where this one, the wearing shoes and nothing else, we would generally think, oh, that's a little bit kinky maybe, or it's somebody's got a foot fetish or a shoe fetish. But the changing the proportions this way, people tend to be really self-conscious about having large thighs and large calves, and this person is so unself-conscious about that and just celebrating it. And it's maybe about being comfortable with your body, or maybe it's about, when I wear pretty shoes, I just feel amazing to the point that I don't need to wear anything else. And we don't know, but it's changing the perception. And for, at least for me, this desexualizes the nudity and makes it more about being comfortable with yourself and celebration and things like that, and takes the like sexual component out of the nude figure, which nude figures in art are very traditional, and it's more about the study of and celebration of the human body than it is about sexuality necessarily. Of course, there's going to be some of both. The last principle that I generally talk about in this presentation is unity, and I combine unity and harmony and continuity. There are subtle differences, but for the most part, it's all about everything fitting together. The resolution of the different elements into one unified whole. This can include elements in opposition to each other or in a progression. Opposition is more unity without so much harmony, and continuity is more the case of progression. So this is both unity and harmony. These things are balanced. This one's more harmony without any particular unity. Everything goes together, but there's it's all kind of one thing at the same time. It's harmonious with the balance. We've got the harmony of the yin and the yang, perfect balance and an odd sort of symmetry. We've got 4 different types. There are different ages and different races of hands, all forming one unified whole, and it's got a sense of cooperation involved in here. All of these coming together to make one picture with a very central focus. Everything coming in and making one overall pattern with all the different handprints. Whereas these have a unified message, but they are not harmonious. There's definite senses of conflict, direct conflict, inner conflict, feeling like you're conflicted against a crowd or the whole. We have the life and death and healthy and non-healthy conflicting messages in this, but there's a unified piece, even though it lacks that harmony and the other spelling of peace in there. Continuity, there's no particular relation between this and this, but as it transitions gradually from one to the other, we see it coming together. And so that's more about continuity, moving from one to the next. And this shows, there's a continuous movement as it steps up and down, as it transitions from one color to another. And this piece has some of that as well. Lots of different shapes. Overall, there's organic and geometric, and nothing really matches anything, but the whole comes together in creating a sense of rhythm and movement that